late morning on Ridge Avenue in Asbury Park, dozens of police officers responded to a domestic dispute that involved a Neptune police officer. Witnesses at the scene described a car crash, angry words over child support, a hostage situation, and multiple gunshots. In the aftermath, a woman was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening gunshot wounds. Police later took a suspect into custody.
Yeah, they got him. They walking him to the...
An eyewitness said a man in a car was chasing another car with a woman and a baby inside. After hitting a police car, the man jumped out and shot the woman in the car. Another witness described the scene.
When I heard the crash, I came outside, and then I seen the guy with a gun, so we backed into the doorway. And after that, it was just a lot of yelling between him and the police, and he was doing a lot of yelling, explaining how he's tired of going to court for child support. And after that, he shot the lady through the car 3 times. 3 loud gunshots rang off.
First, however, the prosecutor will hand you a copy of the complaint and advise you of the charges. Mr. Lemieux.
Thank you. Mr. Seidle, under the warrant 1303-W-2015-001192, you have been charged first count of murder by purposely or knowingly causing the death or serious bodily injury resulting in the death of T.S. You're also charged with knowingly possessing a firearm with the purpose to use it unlawfully against the person of T.S., the second-degree crime. And you're also charged with endangering the welfare of a child for having the legal duty of care over your daughter, and at that point in time, you caused your child harm that would make her abused or neglected under Title IX.
Your Honor, I understand those preconditions. I would say to the extent that the defense counsel or the defense team needs to speak to anybody in the Seidle family, any of the children, or any other members of the extended family, that such an order would not apply to us.
Absolutely not.
In that regard, the bail as presently constituted is at $2 million, no 10%. When I look at the bail guidelines, Your Honor, the guidelines for criminal homicide with which Mr. Seidle has been charged has a bail range of between $250,000 at the low end and $1 million at the high end. So on that guideline range of $50,000 to $100,000 and an allegation of endangering the welfare of a child, with which there is a bail range of $50,000 to $100,000. But even if we put all of those consecutive, so to speak, that's a total of $2 million as opposed to the $2 million as the president stands. Mr. Seidle stands here today notwithstanding the charges, presumed not guilty. He has absolutely no prior criminal record. He has absolutely no prior official domestic violence record. He is an honorably discharged military veteran from the United States Navy. He has proudly and honorably served the Neptune Police Department and Neptune community for 22 years. Well respected and still is, and very well regarded and still is, member of the Neptune community and the law enforcement community. He has, as I've said, absolutely no criminal record. He has a residence in Neptune in Monmouth County. I'm not going to put the address on the record. I can share that with the court otherwise if it needs specificity. If he is released, he would continue to reside in Neptune. There are several members of his extended family, his side of the family, that are here today that would vouchsafe his appearance. He has retained private counsel, namely our firm. We intend a vigorous investigation more to this case that meets the honor, which won't be addressed today, Your Honor, understandably, but which we intend to investigate and reveal at the appropriate time. Would remain offense-free and would otherwise comply with any instructions of the court, including the ones Your Honor has preconditioned. I don't think that he plans on any travel outside the country, but if they wish, even though it's unnecessary, he's a very upstanding member of the community. If there was a requirement that he checks in once a week or once a day or whatever, not object to that as well. Obviously, he's charged with very serious offenses, and to best defend him in most ethical perspective should be accommodated constitutionally by the bail. I would respectfully submit, Your Honor, that a bail at the low end of the range, given his otherwise unblemished announcement in Neptune Township, a bail at the low end of the range with a no 10% option, somewhere between $250,000 and $300, would more than guarantee his appearance. Bail be at the low end of the guideline range, and certainly at a minimum, somewhere within the guideline range, and not twice as much. And I say that with all due respect to the judge that set the bail, but I'm in a unique position in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bertuccio. Mr. Lemieux.
Thank you. When bail was set yesterday before it was thought about, the fact of the matter is that, yes, Sergeant Seidle is someone who has been in the law enforcement community for a long period of time. I can say that I've worked with him myself. But the fact of the matter is that when he was out on the street yesterday at 11:26, he was no longer a sergeant for the Neptune Township Police Department. He turned into a criminal and a murderer. And the reality is that when we look at the bail guidelines in this particular case, and we look at the seriousness of the crime and the likelihood of conviction, this case could not be more clear-cut when it comes to Mr. Seidle decided to make the conscious decision in his vehicle to run his ex-wife off the road, get out of his car with his service weapon, a .40 caliber Glock handgun, go over to her driver's side window and fire inside that car, not once, not twice, but multiple times. He does this while his own daughter is located in his passenger seat in his vehicle. When you look at this type of crime and you look at what we're looking at in this particular case, there can be no question that his conduct was purposeful and or knowing, and that's what will be required under the murder statute. Furthermore, in looking at this particular case, his acts of yesterday would put him in a situation where he is eligible or could be eligible for life without parole. There will be one of the aggravating factors that the state will be seeking against Mr. Seidle, and he will be looking at life without the possibility of parole.
No remorse from the veteran cop who gunned down his ex-wife, the mother of their 9 children.
In fact, even as Philip Seidle pleaded guilty, he seemed anxious to badmouth the victim. CBS 2's Tony Aiello was in court for today's developments and has this new information.
If the prosecution has its way, Philip Seidle will either die in prison or be almost 80 years old before he walks free. The longtime Neptune, New Jersey cop chased his ex-wife's car into Asbury Park last June with his 7-year-old daughter riding in his SUV. Tamara Seidle crashed. Her ex approached and fired 12 times, killing the mother of their 9 children. Thursday, the prosecutor agreed to a lesser charge of aggravated manslaughter in order to spare the children from testifying, a move supported by the oldest Seidle child.
To avoid further trauma to our family, we have thoughtfully accepted this guilty plea. My family and I will not be answering any questions.
In court, her father had a lot to say, hinting he was driven to act because he was outraged his wife's new boyfriend had moved in.
She condemned me to my children for 3.5 years for being with someone else, and then I never even introduced my kids to my lady, and now she moves this guy in and basically replaces me with him, makes him their father.
Okay.
You know,
and
she goes and she commits adultery.
During a standoff with police after the shooting, Seidle texted a friend, quote, "I got tired of Tamara's blank and shot her."
I cannot bear to see his image. I'm embarrassed to share his name. Whenever I even hear it, it's like stabbing knives into my back. I never thought I'd learn exactly what not to do as a father from my actual father.
To this day, our father shows no remorse. Our father lived a double life, only one that we saw in the house and another one that was displayed to the public and to his girlfriends. When my mother finally managed to have enough strength to be free of him and his grip on her, he could not accept it and decided to murder her. Many people think he just snapped, which would have been bad enough. But people don't understand what happened behind closed doors in our home. Despite our father's history of adultery and my mother's efforts and tenacity to keep our family together with good and strong family values, it was my father who abused my mother constantly and relentlessly.
I don't know. I don't know what else I can say. I know that nothing I really can say other than I'm sorry can ever really make up for what I've done. I mean it. I can't even tell you how much I love you all and how sorry I am for what I did, for taking your mother away from you. I pray for her. I pray for you all. I pray for our families. I pray for the officers that were there that night. And I pray for her.